Greetings, everybody. We are back around our little cameras here again for another live edition here. Today, I've been playing around with a nicely bronzed out little mini Presidio.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
We'll have a conversation about Chacho knives later on in this episode, I'm sure. But
Indeed.
I'm sure.
Yep.
I might as well go next. I have been rocking the Mini Barrage for the last couple of days, I guess, here. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I highly enjoy it. So
It's a good little assist.
Mm-hmm.
it is the little springy bastard. Yeah.
That's one of the few assists that actually make me want to have one.
Yeah, the barrage is pretty good like that.
Yeah. You're next, Joe.
Sinkovich today.
It's a great knife.
You actually have Dimitri in your pocket. That's impressive.
Absolutely.
Oh my.
Yeah. No, this little thing's just awesome. Yeah.
And then I'm rocking the Fox Tur today because, you know, the goodness and the carbon fiber.
Because you can.
It's a nice little one.
How are you
For sure.
liking LMAX this far down the road?
So far, so good. It's not one that I've put a lot of use into yet, so I can't really give definitives, but so far I've been liking it.
Yeah.
I've heard good things. I don't actually have a lot of experience with LMAX itself, short of sharpening it for people, right? But
Yeah, I have this one too that's an LMAX.
a little pixie. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Northwoods or whatever it is.
It's another one of those knife steels I know of by reputation, and I've always kind of wanted to mess around with, but just, yeah.
For the record, it's the Mackinac Hunter, Paul. It's your own knife. You should know the name of it.
Yeah.
That
I got
takes
nothing. You got me there.
That actually leads me into a correction from last week. In the Drunken Ramblings, on 2 different occasions, I called my Ultimate Hunter an outdoorsman, which is not designed by Lloyd Pendleton. It's not a Pendleton Hunter. It's not a folding version of a Pendleton Hunter. It's the Ultimate Hunter. So, yeah. I was going back and listening to some of our podcasts and heard myself drop that twice, and I was like, wow, I was doing well for myself last week. Jesus.
just a touch, you know.
Most definitely.
So, what all is going to be the topic for the evening?
What is going to be the topic for the evening? That's a question and a half, sir.
Well,
there's questions to be had from viewers.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think we have, me and Dennis both have a new knife that we can chat a bit about.
And on that front, me and Nigel both have a new knife as well, which he might have showcased already, because I might have the same knife sitting right there. But yeah.
Fantastic. So do you guys want to show off first, or do we want to get in some questions?
Well, I'm going to first give a shout out to some of the boys in the chat on YouTube here.
Absolutely.
Johnny Mississauga says, ooh la la. During the pocket dumps, I'm not sure which one he was referencing, but hey, John, good to see you here. And also, Q's Gear Reviews is here. How's it going, Quinn?
How's it going, man? And then we have Emerson over from Instagram Live, which, I mean, it worked.
Yeah, excellent.
They're coming.
So all those guys, definitely throw up any questions you have live that you didn't get to us throughout the weekend, even just stuff that we're spouting comments to. We're hopefully have an interaction tonight that'll be entertaining for everyone. So
Indeed it will.
That's it.
On to the questions, I guess, then.
All right. Well, Will to Survive here on YouTube's, but Emerson1095 on Instagram has a question for us. What's your favorite all-around fixed blade? And I would assume that's not necessarily in your collection, but...
Oh, boy.
I'm just going to touch base back again, like I did last week on the Bark River Aurora LT. For some reason, I have it in my mind that those are the sorts of specs that's what I'm looking for, but I don't have something like that to actually prove if that's the case or not.
That's fair.
That's a difficult question to answer. I think all around, like in the city fixed blade, like my answer is going to be very different compared to what is my favorite thing to take out of the bush.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm saying favorite fixed blade to take out in the bush, it's got to be the Cold Steel Gurkha Kukri.
It's a fun one.
Yeah, which, yeah, runner up would be the Recon Scout. I love this thing.
Yep.
It's
that he has
awesome.
handy.
Yep.
He's not the only one with stuff handy.
But you know what? I gotta dig it up, because in the city, one of my favorite fixed blades to carry is this little Undertaker custom from Alexander Newt. I'll get his maker's mark in there. It's mirrored.
Sweet.
Damasteel green carbon fiber with mosaic pins. Like, it's just a classy, cute little fixed blade, and it's just thin and slicey as hell. So I guess those are my 2 or 3 answers. Sorry it wasn't more definitive, but there's a reason I have a problem called a collection.
Yeah.
What about you, Dennis?
I did dabble on it last week, and like even in my own collection, the Trailmaster and the Bravo 1.25. Yeah. And still one of my first purchases, and it has stuck with me. So there's some nostalgia factor. But if you're talking about any fixed blade out there, it's very Trailmaster-esque. But the modern Bowie from Fallniven with the COS steel is basically like a Trailmaster on steroids, right? So that Fallniven modern Bowie has always stood out to me of being like, if I had $1,000 to $1,200 to just drop willy-nilly.
Yeah. It is intriguing.
Yeah,
for sure. So
in the city, it would be hard to not choose this thing. That Cheese and Custom in 3V.
It's such a comfortable handle.
It feels like it was made specifically for my hand.
Nice.
Well, both mine are definitely outside in the bush type of thing. Like, it wasn't considered an EDC.
Yeah.
Because I've got 3 variations of a gunny as well that I can't not put in the mix when it comes to something that you would carry inside the city limits. But when it comes to shaving off knives, quite often there's the pocket for the EDC or in the city, and then there's fixed blades for the bushy type of stuff. So that's where my brain goes, right?
Oh, that's exactly it. Makes perfect sense. Do we want to go to our next question?
You bet.
Sure.
All right. Once upon a USN, Calvin's got a question for us.
Excellent.
What are your guys' thoughts on Rex 45?
I've heard good things from people who have used it, but I've got no real first-hand experience. I mean, it's
I have no frame of reference. Yeah.
Highly wear-resistant tool steel. I mean, it's got a lot going for it.
I'm gonna put it into some sort of M4 category. I'm gonna guess, and
I don't think
lot
it's
in that realm. Maybe not quite the same edge performance. Maybe, I don't even know. Maybe a little better, even, type of thing. But I think it's still gonna have the toughness of an M4.
I was just gonna say, I'm not sure about that at all, to be honest. Rex 45, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how it performs for sure.
That's it. I want to get my hands on it and play with it.
I know Joe's actually looking at like steel composition right now. I'm sure of it on different.
I could hear him trail off there as he did.
Yeah, he's looking that up right now because he wants to know the difference between M4 and Rex 45.
Well,
I bet you there's a lot. But...
Well, actually, with some data from Knife Steel Nerds, just a breakdown as far as toughness, wear resistance is concerned, and M4, I mean, is pretty much the middle of that slope, right? Like, it's such a good choice. I mean, if you're not concerned about corrosion resistance, like if that's not a major factor, it's going to be hard to beat M4 in either edge holding or toughness. So,
most definitely.
but I mean, Spyderco's done a lot with it. it'd be interesting to see some other companies take a crack at it as well.
I'm intrigued in a couple of the Spyderco options that are going to come in with it.
The Native Chief, after we actually did our review of the Native Chief, and all of us kind of just had that light bulb that this is much more of a tactical knife than it is an everyday carry knife. And as soon as you started to look at it like that, I think we grew a good appreciation for it.
Most
Go back
definitely.
and watch the video, one of those, right? But
Yeah.
the new sprint run with the Rex 45 on the Native Chief all of a sudden has this, that thing could probably do a hell of a lot with a lot of abuse, right? Like, it's so
Most definitely.
Yeah, it's tempting.
We're going to switch things up a little bit here and jump on to a question from YouTube. Quinn's got a question for us. How much does blade steel play into your choice when choice of buying versus looking at? So I'm trying to read around my phone. How much does blade steel play into your choice of buying versus the look or design?
Right.
Where do you weigh in steel versus?
I think the biggest factor for me that falls into the price point of it, because first it'll come into the design and the feel in hand, and then I consider the materials and if it's worth the price they're asking.
Yeah, I'm
Makes perfect
pretty
sense.
feeling about the same as Nigel. As so long as the blade steel matches the geometry. Like, if you're going to give me a super brittle steel and it's going to be super thin, and then you're going to tell me it's a bushcraft blade, or you're going to be using it to like no, don't give me that ZDP at with a 2mm stock and tell me I can go shave wood with it. Like, sure, I could
just make some ZDP into a straight razor.
Jesus, but I mean, I think that's why steels.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Nigel's immediate reaction for steel was price point, and Joe's immediate reaction was geometry for why the steel comes most into play. I just as your tertiary for whether steel comes in type of thing. And I think I personally probably lean a little more towards Nigel. Because of secondary bevels, I can determine how stable I want to make something to some degree, right?
Right.
So for me, it's the look of the knife. I like the knife. They tell me the steel. I'm like, even if it's garbage steel, okay, pull the trigger on the price. And then, I mean, we've been talking about the QSP Penguin. We almost all pulled the trigger on a $40 knife. So, I mean, none of us are high end enough to be like,
I mean,
out of that route. But
it's a good price for D2, but I have also paid a lot of money for D2 before. So,
or S30, or like we've all fell victim to VP10 or whatever it may be, right? So
it happens.
I know for a fact that I have personally bought knives because of the steel that's in it. But those were knives that were a particularly good deal. You know what I mean? Like you were saying, the Broken Skull. I mean, I hadn't played with that steel before, and I needed to get it in my collection.
Yeah.
And
you're referring to the XHP version of it, not the S35. And I found out the entire Broken Skull was actually discontinued this year, right?
Really?
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Sorry, I must have missed that. What did you say?
The Broken Skull line actually got discontinued this year.
Oh, shoot, like entirely.
Yeah, that's what I was reading in an article just recently.
That sucks.
That is the wrong choice. They made a poor decision.
I'm very happy.
Before we get too far off on that, I still had another point to make about the question there.
Oh, yeah.
I was recently watching the latest Cedric and Ada video, and Pete was even talking about how for 99% of our knives, we never actually let it get dull enough to see the advantages of all the different steels. We keep it razor hair popping sharp, and if anything, any tiny little ding happens, we sharpen it right back up, and it never actually gets dull. So he brought up a question of, if someone secretly replaced all your blades with 8CR, how long do you think it would take you to actually notice the performance difference?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because we had a secondary comment on YouTube there from Cal Sick. Do you guys buy the steel or do you buy the heat treat? And I think that really ties into the point you just made. Like, if you keep sharpening the knife before it goes dull, how the hell do you even know the difference?
Yeah.
And I think as a direct response, I don't know. I actually use my knives until they get like that does not easily cut skin, will not shave hair. I can see a silver line down the edge of my knife. I'd let them go that far before I bother touching them up.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, fair enough. See, like I notice the difference, but do I necessarily care? Like, again, going back to the broken skull, you could strop that bastard up so quick, at least with the XHP variant.
Yes. And I personally think it depends knife to knife. If you told me how long would it take for one of my traditionals, a GEC, if you swapped it out with something garbage, even though 1095 is not that good, compared to my Contigo, I use my Contigo in very abusive ways.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that the first time I go out into the yard and dig in the ground with a Contigo, I'm not going to notice the difference between M4 and chromoly steel. I'm going to laugh at you. I watched the same article, Cedric Caneda, and he does have a point for a lot of people, but that's instantly what came to my mind is what knife. Because there's some knives I will notice it instantly, and there's other knives that, you're right. It'd probably take me a month or so to realize, oh crap, what is this, right? Like,
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
And I think. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Genuinely, when I'm talking to customers, if I'm talking to them about a high-end steel, I will often recommend to them to sharpen, not frequently, but sharpen before it gets dull. When you start to notice a change, because in like the M4s and stuff like that, you can get a lot of work out of an M4 steel before there's even a change in how it cuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you take it from that point and bring it back to sharp, it takes no time at all compared to dropping it on concrete, for example.
That's going to come up in every episode now. I love it.
It's a recurring theme.
You gave that knife away. It's fine. It's fine.
I traded that knife for too many knives.
Yep.
And I'm just going to give what was that?
I'm just saying hi to somebody.
I was also going to say hi to Justin here. And also, apparently he likes watching us at 1.75 speed, so apparently he likes us all in chipmunk mode.
Oh God. I can't imagine my voice in chipmunk mode.
Could you imagine?
Don't do that to me, man.
Could you imagine what?
Nigel as Kermit the Frog.
Oh
God.
At 1.75 speed.
Probably had to slow it right down in order to hear what he was saying at the time. Like, what?
I want that meme.
The hell was that? Yeah.
All right, we got more questions.
We certainly do.
Let's fire some off.
So I'm going to say it right now. We got a few questions from Ahsoka Edge. I'm going to start with one. We'll probably bounce back and forth between YouTube and Instagram and answer some questions. So keep them coming on YouTube as well. Would you guys ever get into cut testing with different steels? I don't understand what this means now that I'm reading it. Different steels, ants, steel comparing. Different steels and steel comparing, I think.
Oh,
maybe there's
maybe he means like what's S30V from Benchmade versus what's S30V from Spyderco. Like,
yeah. I think it's like a question of like what Cedric and Ada does, where they actually sit down and do a bunch of cuts to see how the steel turns out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that's useful information for the model of knife that you're testing, but I think what Laren Thomas has been saying on Knife Steel Nerds for the past forever has been pretty accurate. You got to have multiple blades of the exact same blade, right?
Geometry's
got to be identical.
Yeah. Everything about it. So when it comes to the cut test, I appreciate what Cedric and Ada is doing on like Pete on his channel and even other guys out there that are doing similar cut tests, cardboard tests. I think Chef Kalari also does some of that stuff and things like that for cardboard tests, and I appreciate it. But the geometry comes into play that even I think Pete got a whole bunch of mule team stuff just recently.
Yeah.
And it was all the same blade shape with the same grind. So that's way cooler and way more intriguing.
Definitely.
But to have the accessibility for us to be able to do that with the same medium, I just don't think it's accessible for us, right?
Yeah.
So
for me personally, It's just a matter of finding time. I've got so many projects on the go that I can't figure out time to set aside for doing the cut tests and stuff like that.
That's
Yeah.
it. We usually end up testing our knives in the act of either making something or being out in the bush camping
Mhm.
or something like that. Times where we're not usually filming all that much. But
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it might be interesting if we have the ability to do cutting tests with a knife where we are reviewing to report on its actual performance. That's one thing, but to try and do a comprehensive, this is how S30V acts, I don't think we are really capable of putting that information out.
Well, I think the best thing for us to do is really just redirect people to the people that are focusing on that. Like
Yeah.
Triple B Handmade with his catcher testing with all of his
Yep.
stuff
Yeah.
going on right now.
He's doing some cool
honestly,
work.
Even as us who love and appreciate knives and are called experts because it's our job to sell them, all I'm learning is from these guys are doing it. So let's all learn together and just go watch those guys, and then we can have the conversation about it rather than diving into it ourselves, right? So
100%. I think in and of itself, like knowing how this knife performs at specific angles is interesting information. Whether that means anything for anything else, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Whether you can take it to the bank and every steel is going to act that way, or every iteration of that steel is going to act that way. Yeah, that just trailed off. My thought is
well, and that comment earlier about are you buying the heat treatment? Well, I'm crossing my fingers that I'm buying the heat treatment, but like some of people have been proven wrong on what their actual heat treatments are, right? Some people
Yeah.
This is true.
out. So right
when
now
I'm buying
in
the
the
product,
invested world, at least,
And I mean,
I'm just crossing my fingers that if it does get caught, it gets called out and then recalled, and I'm one of the people that can learn, other than my own personal experience with stuff, right? So,
generally speaking, like I'm not going to say no to S30V or D2 from Spyderco, and I'm not going to say no to those steels from Benchmade. Generally speaking, the reputation of a company kind of means a lot when it comes to repeatability and actually hitting the specs that you say you're hitting. So
unless they get proven wrong.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's just what Dennis was saying. But when it comes to that,
I consistently, I hate to say it, but both Spyderco and Benchmade have been called out recently on not being quite accurate on what they claim.
I wasn't sure about the Spyderco, but yeah, the Benchmade whole thing was pretty famous.
I think with all the testing that went on over the last week, I think with all the testing that went on over the last year or so, Spyderco was basically called out as being whatever they say, you can probably drop it a point or two in your act. So it's not bad, but if they say 64, you're probably going to get a 63. If they say 60, you're probably going to get a 59 or a 58.
And if I recall, Spyderco hadn't actually published their Rockwell information for a long time. Like if you look through their catalogs, I don't think that information is actually published anywhere. And I think
that's suspect in and of itself, to be honest with you.
Yeah. That being said, you're nice. You expect a certain range of usefulness, right? Like even take my Sabenza for instance. This is supposedly, I think, a 58-59 Rockwell S35, and this is from the last year that steel was heat treated to that low of a hardness. I think, because I think now they're aiming for much closer to 60. But it's one of those things where for years nobody gave a shit because they said it was that hardness, and it is that hardness because people would test it. But I don't know. If I were a little bit more snobby, I don't know if I would be as happy with the Sabenza being that soft, knowing that it could be harder and do a little bit better. But again, minute differences. How many more ropes can I cut?
We got a bunch of questions. Let's keep rolling along.
Triple E EDC has a good point though that people are too obsessed with steels, and that, like you're saying, most people wouldn't even notice a difference.
Yeah.
If you swapped most things out for say like a D2, you'd probably not catch anybody. You know what I mean? Something like not like a 4CR or something.
Right.
Well, and I mean on that note as well, actually, as you say, you probably wouldn't notice. This new little guy, the QSB drop that was the exclusive. Both me and Paul just scored one of these bad boys that are D2 by the company called QSP. Really feel kind of cool ergonomics. The back end I have some issues with, might not. Anyway,
It's a little strange.
ate steak with it a couple days ago. Used to eating steak with my Bark River Gunny Vortex that Nigel gifted me. And if you're going to tell me I can't tell the difference between the A2 and the D2 on my plate as I'm cutting a steak through it, there was some serious flat spots on that D2 from QSP after it was all said and done. So,
Oh, really?
and again, with the convex on a Vortex and a Gunny compared to the nice flat, almost saber grind on the QSP, geometry comes into play for sure.
Well,
But
definitely.
And that's funny because D2 typically should be holding a bit of a better edge, a considerably better edge than A2. So it could be geometry, it could be hardness.
This
as
thing
soon
is
as
so
you're
slicey.
talking about against a ceramic plate and grinding,
Yeah.
your wear resistance and stuff is going to be different than your toughness, right? Like it's
Yeah. I suppose deformation as opposed to what would you call that? Like not carbide tear out, but yeah.
Sorry, I'm just bursting out laughing there, noticing a comment that just popped up from Justin here.
Oh.
Everybody doing quarantine pocket dumps. I'd have to be wearing pants to be able to have pockets too empty.
yeah.
I'm
That's
only
why-
wearing pants because I'm on video right now.
I was going to say that's
I
why
haven't
he's
worn
not part
pants
of the
for 2
Zoom
months.
champ.
Nice.
Except for this week. This week has been busy.
Hmm.
We want to go to the next question.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
This is another one from Ahsoka Edge. What's your favorite knife steel and why?
Favorite?
Uh-huh.
So far that I've played around with, I think I'll lean towards 3V just from the carving bushcraft aspect of it. I love the toughness of the steel. You can beat the piss out of it. It stays decently, awesomely sharp, like it's going to have around an S30 for the edge retention. But the ability to strop it back up and keep it hair popping sharp is fantastic.
100%. 100%. I think it's a hard question to answer because I want to answer one thing for fixed blades and one thing for folding knives.
Yeah.
Different
yeah.
applications, different use cases.
That's it. And 3V wins all day in a fixed blade. I have probably 5 or 6 of them in 3V that are fantastic. But I think in a folding knife, it would have to be like an M390 or a variant 204P.
You notice how this is Paul's way of cheating and not actually answering what his favorite is and giving a two-way tie here? This isn't a two-way tie. I'm not allowed to give a two-way tie for my next.
No two-way tie? I got to pick one? Then I go with Nigel. It's 3V.
All right.
Jesus. Okay. Because I was going to say it's
For a man who has a million different steels in his knife collection, you're telling me that I have to actually pick one or maybe a two-way tie? Go screw yourselves. Like
you get
gonna
one.
be one. Make up your minds like I have to.
Yeah.
And let's continue on here.
I'd say flip a coin between M4 and M390. I'm leaning towards M4. Crazy edge retention, crazy toughness for what it is. Oxidizes, sure, but I mean, it's in terms of how it actually behaves as a knife steel in use. M4 so far has been my favorite. M390 is just a super nice close second.
I have the exact same answer as Joe, for the record. M4 is an easier answer for me to pick than it is for him, apparently.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
any sort of 20 CB M390 204P is a very close second for sure. Yeah, I don't know. Even as a bush and an outdoorsy knife, you can do a lot of damage before it blows out, as Paul knows. It's going to be brought up twice tonight, right? But
At least.
yeah, up until the point where your M4 does chip out, man, it takes a lot.
Oh, just a quick aside. We have 9 minutes left on this particular call.
Cool.
Okay. And yeah, M4. I think M4 is something I want to play with in a pocket knife, something that I can safely hide in my pocket and I don't have to worry about dropping. Third reference.
It's not unjustified.
All right, what do we got for the next question?
It's gonna sound crazy, but the next question is from Ahsoka Edge.
Oh, hey.
Right? What's your favorite fidget knife if you have one?
Whatever happens to be in my pocket. No, smock for me. It's just so
That's a good answer.
much
That's a good answer. Yeah.
fun.
That's fun and fidgety, for sure.
Oh, it's so fidgety. I love it. It's right by my laptop all the time, not even just when we're streaming, but it's like the knife that's just, I can open it slowly, and it's on ball bearings, and it's so smooth. I love that flipper. It's good.
Not the wrong answer.
I'm personally not much of a fidgeter, but anything with access lock, I think.
Yeah, to be able to just kind of pull the axis and kind of swing it back and forth kind of idea. Yeah.
Nigel gets so annoyed at the three of us playing with knives. He gets twitchy to the point. Yeah, he's not a true knife guy, and by that.
Hey,
When the three of us go missing, you know what happened.
this is the reason that Nigel will kill me one day. This knife specifically.
Yes.
It's his least
The
favorite.
Kurta?
Yeah, the induction, because it's got that nasty double click that he hates so much because there's two sliders in it, and it is pretty clacky. It's yeah.
I'm actually going to go with probably one that you probably wouldn't expect. It's actually the Valet. And this thing just sits in, and it is a Benchmade in particular, but it sits in my hand just perfectly enough, and it has that beautiful drop shot. I figured out how to do it. That it's big, it's not big, it's not clunky, it's just a nice, cute little flick as I'm sitting there or whatever, right? So yeah.
I recognized exactly that motion from work, to be honest with you. Just what you were doing just now.
Sit in front of a computer or whatever, right? Like it's
No.
Yeah.
Got to play something.
And for me, I don't have one specific favorite knife to fidget with. It genuinely usually is the newest knife that I bought.
Yeah.
I'll play with that one until I get a new one, then I'll put that one down, get the new one out, and start playing with that one for a while.
You don't have any.
Nope. Until our fingers are raw.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I learned that the hard way with the 0804 that me and Joe both own. The detent and flipping that thing, yeah. You find out real quick how tough your finger is.
You get some calluses,
exactly. There is an occasional thing, too, where I'll fall back in love with a knife and be like, no, this one's staying in my pocket for the next month or whatever it is. But it's usually the new one.
Yeah.
So what's the time looking like, Joe?
Yeah, we should probably walk over.
Got 5 minutes, 40 seconds. So we could restart now.
Okay, can we finish one question quick here and then jump over, just so it's quicker?
Yeah, actually, we got a question that just came in from Quinn here. So, what's your favorite Pokey Factor drink, or just favorite relax time drink?
Well, I'm a picky ass bastard, and there's not much alcohol I like, so I usually just resort to vodka and Coke.
You can mask it pretty good with Coke.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true. Nigel is picky. He's the pickiest drinker out of all of us by far.
Oh yeah.
I actually had it recently. Haven't had it for a long time since before that. But Rickard's Red, I think, is probably my favorite go-to beer. Yeah, but Dennis kind of turned me on to Stella some years ago, and since then it's like, oh shit, I actually really like this. Yep. There. Exactly.
So for myself, obviously as a go-to, it's got to be Stella. But anytime I get a chance to sip on some tasty mead is a great sitting around socializing drink. For sure it is. And I know a private stash that is pretty tasty stuff. So.
Yes, you do. And my jealousy knows no bounds. For me, it's going to be Shine.
No.
Probably.
Speaking of private stashes, yeah.
Indeed.
We might have a line on some pretty fantastic moonshine. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, I'm not making it.
Yeah, that's it. Me
Yeah,
neither.
that'll be that. We should probably wrap up this segment for here.
Yeah,
We'll jump right back in.
Exactly.
sounds good.
Yep.
cool, guys.
So
We're gonna grab a new
leave,
drink.
guys.
Continue on. Yeah.
So yeah, everyone in YouTube land, just hang tight. We will be back in a few moments with you.